Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Nedarim Samach Aleph. We are holding on Samach Amid Beis at the third line from the bottom. Amar Rav Ashi Toshma. Back to our question. A fellow says, no wine for me. Hayom, today. That Isser extends until the end of today, until nightfall. That's it. He says, no wine for me, Yom Echad. For the duration of one complete day, that's a 24-hour unit. It's a unit in time, Yom Echad. What if he says Yom? That's somewhere in between. Shall we consider it like Hayom today, which terminates at the end of day? Whether it's 3 hours, 6 hours, nightfall ends the nether. Or shall we consider it like Yom Echad, a one-day unit, a full 24-hour cycle? That was the question we posed yesterday. And today we're going to attempt to find a solution. Amar Rav Ashi Toshma, I will bring you a raya from a similar expression pertaining to a year. So we have Hashana, no wine this year, until end of year, until Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. He says, Shana Achas, that's a full year, a full 12-month cycle. What about if he says Shana? That's the in-between expression. Like by the Yom, you have Hayom today, Yom Echad, a full day, Yom, question mark. We want to try to derive a clarity from the example of Shana and draw that over to Yom. Toshma, the Brisa says, Koinam Yayin Shani Taima Shana, no wine for me, Hashana. This is Abra Hashana. Suppose there was an unexpected development. It turns into a leap year. They added a month. In those days, it wasn't necessarily expected or anticipated until the time came. So he's at the beginning of the year and he says, no wine for me, Hashana, and it turns out to be an extra long year. Does he have to last out for the entire 13 months? Yes, Asr ba'ubi ibura, no wine during 12 months and the ibur as well. Hechidami, let's analyze this brisa, which includes the Shana Mu'beres into his neder. Ilay Makadiktani, is it as said? Koinam Yain Shanetaim Hashana, which means this year. Well, that's obvious. Obviously, it includes whatever this year is. A 12-month year, a 13-month year. He didn't specify otherwise. Ilay Makadiktani, is it as per the lashon of the brisa, meaning he said Hashana this year? Why even discuss this? This year happens to have 13 months, and that's what he committed to. Ella lavda Amar Shana. Now, the Ran points out, on the other hand, if you would say Shana Achas, of course, it does not include the extra month, because Shana Achas denotes a year of standard length, 12 months. So of course it would not include the leap month. It's a standard lunar year. We work with lunar years, 354 days. So the only option to explain this price is that he said Shana. Ela lavda Amar Shana, which is a vague lashon. And the price is being mechadesh to us that Shana is treated like Hashana. This year. Whatever this year turns out to be. Elalavda Amar Shana. Alma, apparently we learned that Shana, the term Shana, Kahashana Dami, is treated like Hashana, and likewise by days. Regarding our question, what is Yom? The Yom Nami, there as well, the word Yom is Kihayom. Dine is treated like Hayom today. Until the day's up. Says the Gemara, Loi, perhaps not. Loi Lamda Amar Hashana, the Brisa says the extra month is included, is because he said Hashana this year. Not just plain Shana. Shana would not do the trick. Hashana does it. The question was, it's Pashut. Why even discuss it? It's not so Pashut. Perhaps I would say, Halech Acharoiv Hashana. Follow the majority of years. Typically, a year is not a Shana Muberes. And there is no Ibur in a typical year. So when he says Hashana, and he's not really expecting it to be a Shana Muberes. When he said Hayayim, he knows day is up at nightfall, whether it's a short summer day, a long winter, short winter day, a long summer day. He knows what's coming up. He knows what to expect. But here, perhaps he had no clue that it's going to be a Shana Muberes. So when he says Hashana, even though it means this year, whatever it is, but it's not on his mind to include the Ibur month, and perhaps you can't include it. Well, Ispu Ibur Kamash Malan, that's it. He's committed. When he says Hashana, it's this year, whatever it turns out to be. But should he have said just plain Shana? We don't know. And likewise by the word Yom. Iboilu, here comes another interesting question. Amar Yain Shani Toyim Yovel. Fellow gets up and says, no wine for me throughout Yovel. And the Ran says, he said Yovel Zeh, this current Yovel. Yovel is a full gamut of 7 Shmitas, 7 times 7, the 50th year of which is called Yovel, which is also treated as Shmita. You don't work, you don't do malach in the field. So when he says, no wine for me during the current Yovel, when does his neder end? Mai. Shnas Chamishim Kilafnei Chamishim. Year 50. After 7 times 7 Shmitas, year 50 is a culmination of the previous set of years. It belongs to this Yovel and is included in the neder Oy Kilachar Chamishim, or perhaps it is part of the next set of years and is not included in this neder. Tashma, listen to this. It's actually a machlokes tanoim. So all agree that a Yovel comes after 7 times Shemitah. So the 7 years of Shemitah times 7, it's 49. Year 50 is considered Yovel Asher b'malach and the Sada. The question is, whether that year stands alone, year 50 is counted independently of the next set of Shemitah, of the next Shemitah cycle. So basically every Yovel has 50 years and then you start fresh. You start with a new cycle. Or, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's not so. There isn't really a separate year called year 50. Year 50 is considered Yovel for the previous 49, but it is also year 1 for the coming new 7-year Shemitah cycle. So basically, according to Rabbi Yehuda, every Yovel is 49 years, not 50. Here comes the Brisa which presents the two shittas. Tashma desani plukta. To Rabbi Yehuda Rabbanan, it's actually machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan. How do we count Yovel? Pasuk says, "V'kidash temes shnas hachamishim shana." Be mekadesh year 50. The Rabbanan learn shnas chamishim atamoina. You count it strictly as year 50. It has only one label, year 50. V'i atamoina shnas chamishim. You don't give it a double identity. On the one hand, you're going to call it year 50, a culmination of the previous 49, 7 times 7 Shemitahs, on the one hand. On the other hand, va'achas, you'll also label it as year 1 for the coming 7-year Shemitah cycle. You don't do that. It's identified as year 50, and that's it. Mikan Amru, we learn from here, say the Rabbanan, Yovel, year 50 is Yovel, and therefore Einoi Oila Leminyan Shavua, it is not counted in terms of year 1 for the next Shemitah cycle. So basically you have 7 times 7, after which comes year 50, you're done your Yovel arrangement, then you start afresh. Start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for the next Shemitah cycle. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, no. Yovel Oila Leminyan Shavua. Yovel really has 2 labels. It identifies with the previous 49 years and serves them as the Yovel year, and it also identifies as year 1 for the next Shemitah cycle. Amr le Rabbi Yehuda, they asked Rabbi Yehuda a question. How can you suggest that year Yovel, where you can't do any farming, is counted as year 1 for the next Shemitah cycle? The Pasuk says, when do we observe Shemitah? After 7 years of work. It'll turn out that the first Shemitah cycle after Yovel only has 5 years of work, 5 permissible years, because year 1 is Yovel, year 7 is Shemitah, leaving you only 5 to work. The Pasuk says there are 6, and they're assuming the Pasuk refers to all the Shemitah cycles equally. Armalem, Rabbi Yehuda responds, well, the Devreichem, according to your approach, that the Pasuk describes all, it's a reference to all situations. All Shemitah cycles have 6 years. What about the following Pasuk, which will pose difficulty for you as well? How are you? The Pasuk promises a bracha if one keeps Shemitah. The crop, the produce of the Erev Shemitah year will last you for 3 years. For that year, the 6th, into the 7th, into the 8th, until you prepare the new crop. Question is, even according to you, Chachamim, what happens during a Yovel juncture? That's an extra year of no work, an extra year of no crop. So the crop of year 6 has to stretch and last into the 4th year. Right? This is universal. Everybody agrees that Yovel follows Shemitah. So you have 2 consecutive no work years. So year 6's crop has to suffice for year 6, for year 7, which is Shemitah, year 8, which is now Yovel, and then the following year when you finally have your crop growing. So why does the Pasuk specify only 3 years? It's 4. And this is a kasha to anybody. Even the Rabbanon agree that Shemitah is followed by Yovel. The way around this question is by saying, well, the Pasuk, which speaks about a 3-year stretch, is typical for your typical standard Shemitah, without Yovel. So the crop of the 6th year lasts for the 6th, the 7th, which is Shemitah, and into the 8th, which is post-Shemitah, a permissible year. Although there are exceptions. By a Yovel year, you have to extend it another year, but Pasuk speaking about standard, typical. Dili nami, and the question you presented me with, the Pasuk that you posed to me, the Pasuk which describes the Shemitah year being preceded by 6 working years, well, that's standard. Standard Shemitah cycle has that, although sometimes there's an exception. The first Shemitah cycle after Yovel only has 5 permissible years, because year 1 of that 7-year cycle is Yovel, according to my opinion. So bottom line is, according to the Chachamim, Yovel is year 50, and that's it. After which starts year 1, 2, 3, 4 for the next cycle. So a Yovel cycle is 50 years. According to Rabbi Yehuda, Yovel cycle is 49 years. It's 7 times 7, but then following year, which is Yovel, is really already considered year 1 for the following, new Shemitah cycle. In which case we have a conclusion now, a question. The fellow says, no wine for me during this Yovel. During this, Yovel system. And he's at year 35, let's say, of the Yovel system. Until when does the Neder apply? Very simple. According to Chachamim, into year 50, which is a culmination, a conclusion of the previous Yovel setup, of the previous 49 years. Whereas according to Rabbi Yehuda, and the truth is not so simple according to Rabbi Yehuda, it is a chiddush, because even he agrees that the Yovel years is considered a conclusion. It caps the last 49 years. So perhaps it is included. It is considered part of this Yovel. No. The chiddush is that since it is tagged, it is labeled as year 1 to the following 7-year Shemitah cycle, explained the Achrayim, the Keren Eira, and others, that apparently the Ikar, its primary designation is year 1 for the following Shemitah, and its secondary designation is to consider it year 50 for the previous set of years. And therefore, when it comes to this Neder, no wine during Yovel Zeh, it does not include the Yovel year, which is already part of the next Shemitah cycle. That's its primary designation. Ada Pesach Asr V'chul. Back to the Mishnah. Fellow says, no wine for me ad ha-Pesach. That means until Pesach arrives, not including Pesach. The Ran says, in Loshen B'nei Adam, when you say ad, it's not inclusive. It's until, but not inclusive. He says Achi, until Pesach is experienced, that carries him through the Pesach. No wine until the end of Pesach. What about if he says Ad Pinei, until the face, so to speak, of Pesach? What does that mean? Until Pesach arrives, and not including Pesach, until he experiences Pesach. Rabbi Meir says, until Pesach arrives, not including Pesach. Rabbi Yossi says, into the entire Pesach, until Pesach is over. What is the svara of the machlokes? Remember the Rabbi Meir savar. Shall we learn that according to Rabbi Meir, loy ma'ayel inish, a person wouldn't allow himself, wouldn't submit himself to the situation of safek, loy ma'ayel inish nafshi l'sfeika, which means like this. It would seem that he had something in mind. He knew what he had in mind when he made the neder. Until Pesach, into Pesach, until Pesach is over, he knew what he had in mind. But a person is careful never to use vague language, in which case, just in case he forgets what he had in mind, that would just generate confusion. Well, what do I mean? At Pnei before, during, after. According to Rabbi Meir, a person would not allow himself such confusion. He's 2 steps ahead of himself. He's extra conscientious. And therefore, when he makes a lashon, when he speaks in a way which can be interpreted many ways, you know what he had in mind? Clarity. I'm only committing myself to something which is clear-cut in my language, lest it create confusion down the road. So true, Ad Pnei Pesach can perhaps theoretically mean including Pesach itself, but he wouldn't allow himself that. He speaks clear. He wants a clear commitment without confusion. Rabbi Yossi Savar, no. Ma'ayil inish nafshel sfeika, a person can sometimes submit himself to lack of clarity, meaning he's thinking, look, I know what I have in mind. When he says Pnei Pesach, he means, through the Pesach. And even though the lashon can perhaps create confusion, he's not concerned that he'll forget what he had in mind. He meant throughout Pesach, and that's what he committed to. And therefore we say the neder extends through Pesach. Is that the pshat in machlokes? And that's where Rabbi Yossi goes a step beyond Rabbi Meir. His lashon can accommodate all possibilities and commits him to those. For Amini, we seem to have a stira, a contradiction from a different halacha, where we find a machlokes between these 2 same Tanoim, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi. Only problem is, their opinions seem to have been reversed. According to Rabbi Meir, he takes chances. According to Rabbi Yossi, he does not. He has 2 groups of daughters from 2 wives. He married Rachel first, who bore him daughter Aleph and daughter Beis. He married Leah, who bore him daughter Gimel and daughter Dalet. So Aleph and Beis are from Rachel, the older bunch. Gimel and Dalet are from Leah, the younger bunch. V'amar, says, Kidashti es biti agdola. I know that I went over to a man and I was Mekadosh biti agdola. And he had something in mind. And now he's totally forget. No idea. He's at a loss. What did I mean when I said gdola? Perhaps the oldest of the oldest bunch, meaning Aleph. Perhaps the oldest of the second bunch, that's Gimel, right? Who's older than Dalet. Or perhaps the second one amongst the older bunch, which is Beis. Why would she be referred to as Gdola? Because she's the oldest of the second bunch. Even though she's the youngest of the first group, but she's older than the second group. She's older than the oldest of the second group. Bottom line is, it's mayhem. Kulon Asuris, according to Rabbi Meir, everybody's Asur. We don't know who he had in mind. Divid Rabbi Meir. Everybody's Asur. Aleph, Beis, Gimel are Asur. We have to treat him like an Ashes Ish who needs a get. Chutz, except for one, the lucky one, the youngest one. She's certainly not Gedola. Chutz min Aktana Shebaktanis, the youngest of the youngest group, Mrs. Dalet. Rabbi Yossi, no. A person would not commit himself to this clarity. Kulon Mutaris, everybody's okay. Everybody's out of the realm of Safek. Everybody's safe except the oldest one. Chutz min hagdolah shebagdolah, except for Miss Aleph, the oldest of the oldest. Why? So again, apparently he had something in mind. And later on, when he forgot what he had in mind, says Rabbi Yossi, he would not have used, he would not have done something which can create suffix later. When he used the Lashon Gedolah, he must have been very meticulous in his reference, in his expression, to use lashonos, to use terminology which cannot lend to confusion down the road if he should forget what he had in mind. And therefore, the only thing that's absolutely clear is the oldest one. Gedolah meant the oldest of the oldest. Otherwise, it's confusion. Should he forget what he had in mind? Rabbi Meir says no. Maybe he meant a different one, and he referred to her as Gedolah, thinking he'll remember what he's trying to do. And then he forgot. So now he's really stuck, and includes all the options, except for the youngest of the young, which is not included. So it's the same idea as by Nedarim, but just switched around. Here by Kiddushin, Rabbi Meir seems to reverse his opinion. A person would allow himself into such a situation and incorporate all possibilities, use lashonos that can create confusion. Whereas according to Rabbi Yossi, a person is extra meticulous. He's 2 steps ahead of himself. He's concerned that he might forget, and therefore initially he's careful to make a clear reference to a clear product or a clear commitment without any vagueness whatsoever. So it's a stira. Amar Rabbi Chanina bar Abdimi, Amar Rav, Muchlef Asashita. You're right. Back over here by Nedarim, we'll switch around the Lashonos. V'atanya, as we find in the Brisa, Zaklal, Kol Shezman Kavua. Person commits to a neder until this and this event, and it's a set, established, predictable event coming up, like a Yom Tov. V'amar, he says, Ad Pnei, until the Pnei of that Yom Tov. What is that? Remir Mashiyetze. It continues into that event. Because a person would use a lashon that can create this clarity, and he had it in mind throughout the Pesach, and that's why he said ad pnei. And even though pnei can be interpreted otherwise, no, he wanted to include the Pesach. Rabbi Yossi Omer achi yagia. It's only up until and not including the Pesach, because pnei is a confusing term. It can mean including, it can mean excluding. And when he said it, he meant to use it in a clear, concise, absolute manner, in a way which cannot be misinterpreted and misunderstood. So it only includes things which are clear, which is up until the Pesach. Continues the Mishnah. What if he says, no wine for me until the harvesting season, Ada Kutzer, till the harvest the grain, Ada Batzer, harvest the grapes, Ada Masak, the olives. Einoi Aser El Achiagia. The nether lasts until, not including, until that event. Zaklal. This is in accordance with the following formula. Kol Shezman Kavua. When there's a set event coming up, a predictable event. V'amar Achiagia. And he specifies until that event arrives. Asur Achiagia. He's asur until the event arrives. Amar Achihei. But if he added and says, I'm asur until it will be experienced, then he meant to include that event as well. Asur Achiyetze. So then, no wine until that event is up. For instance, a Yom Tov. It's predictable. Right? He knows how long the Yom Tov lasts. So he knows what to expect. So when he says Achiyagia, it's up until the Yom Tov. Achiyeh, until the Yom Tov is through. But when it comes to these examples, harvesting, these aren't, predictable. We don't know how long these things last for. So why would he, it's not logical that he would commit himself to an open-ended, unpredictable time frame. And therefore, when it comes to these events, whose duration are unknown, it doesn't make a difference how he says it. Whether he says Achiyagia or even Achiyehei, it only lasts until the initiation of that event. But if it's not a set, predictable event, duration unknown, length undefined, whether he said Achiyehei, or Achiyehei, until the event arrives, and that's it. What if he says Adakayitz? What does that mean? So Vayas Kayitz is summer. In fact, it's a pasuk by Noach, Kayitz v'chorev. But in the lashon of Bnei Adam, lashon of Chazal, you know what Kayitz means? When they pick figs, and it's called Kayitz because they detach it manually by hand, ketzitza, off the tree. So Adakayitz means until Achiyehei Akayitz. Right, whether he said Adakayitz or Achiyehei Akayitz, it means Achiyaschilu am lahachnes bekalkolis, until the fig harvesting season starts in earnest. Not just, a fig here or there. They start, gathering the figs for serious, and they start filling up the kalkolis, the baskets, and bringing them into the house. What if he says Achiyavra Kayitz, until Kayitz is up? What does that mean? Until they're done. The fig harvesting process. So after they pick them, very often they would use miktsoyos, little pocket knives, to snip off the stems and cut them into shape and shape them into these fig dates, what we call ketziyos or devela, or so that was the end of the fig harvesting season. Achiyavra Kayitz means achiyakpilu, until they stash away, they store away hamiktsoyes, these knives. Tana, we learned in the Brisa, when the Mishnah speaks about Kayitz referring to kalkolis, baskets, we mean baskets containing figs, and not the earlier baskets containing the grapes. Tana kalkola she'amru kalkola shel te'enim, v'loy kalkola shel anavim. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, hanoider and peres hakayitz. A person makes a neder from peres of kayitz, no eating kayitz fruit. What is that? Once again, that's a reference to figs. Ein asur ela b'te'enim. Rabban Shimon Gamliel Omer, anovim bichlal te'enim. He says kayitz can be a reference to grapes as well. My time at Tanakama, why did Tanakama insist on figs? Because Savar te'enim mixed it some biyada. There's a difference between how they harvest figs. That's detached by hand, right? Because it's soft and pliable. You just pick it off the tree by hand, and that's how it gets its name, kayitz, because of ketzitza. But anavim, grapes, aren't harvested in that fashion. It grows on vines, and you need a tool for that. You need a knife to snip off the vine. Lo mixed some biyada, therefore it's not called kayitz. Whereas Rav Shimon Gamliel Savar, anavim nami, even by grapes, when it dries and shrivels, the branch, it's easy just to flick it off. Rather than when it shrivels and thins, mix it some biyada, you could just snip it off by hand, and apparently that was very prevalent in his location, and therefore the term kayitz can be referenced to the grape harvesting season as well. What about Achiyavra Kayitz, until Kayitz is up? Achiyik pilu miktsoyes. The knives are stored away. Tana, Achiyik echpilu roiva miktsoyes, until most people stored away their knives, even if there's some residual individuals still engaged in ketzia, that's not part of the season. Season's up. Tana, we learned in the Brisa. Hukpilu roiva miktsoyes, when that happens, mutaris mishum gezel, any remaining figs in your field are totally hefker. You can go take them. The owner is not really particular about those figs. Upturis min amasers, and likewise, there's no chiv of maser as per its hefker status. Okay, so what did we learn today? It makes a neder from wine hashana. It includes even the chodesh ha'ibur. Shana achas, according to the Ran, does not include chodesh ibur. What about shana? We're not sure. No wine for yovel zeh. Does it include the 50th year yovel? According to Rabbanan, yes. According to Rabbi Yehuda, that 50th year identifies with the next Shmita cycle and therefore is not included in yovel zeh. Person says no wine ad Pesach until Pesach arrives. Achiyehei Pesach, until Pesach is through. Ad Pnei Pesach. So according to the final version of the Gemara, that includes Pesach on Koter Meir. Koter Biesi, it does not. Interesting that the Ran brings the Yerushalmi. Suppose he set a wedding date for his son's wedding, and he made a neder no wine until wedding date. So we're going to see the next Mishnah. There are two types of events. Events whose duration is predefined, in which case when he says Achihei until it arrives, Achiyagia until it arrives, Achihei until it's through. But you have these unpredictable events whose duration is unknown, in which case whether it's Achihei or Achiyagia, it ends right at the beginning of that event. What about a wedding? The Yerushalmi is not sure. It's Mana Kavua, so perhaps it only includes, until the when he says Achihei, until the wedding is here, until I experience the wedding, that includes the entire wedding experience as well, because it's a set, prescribed, predictable event. Or shall we say, since you could push off a wedding, maybe it's called Ein Zman Kavua, and even when you say Achihei, it will not include the actual wedding experience. The Ran brings that was not concluded, and therefore you have to go to Chumrah. The term Kayetz, according to Tanakama, is a reference to the fig harvesting season. According to Rav Shimon Gamliel, grapes as well. May Hashem give us much hatzlacha. Asiyat l'shmaya.